सत श्री अकाल, यू ऑल आर वाचिंग पंजाब केसरी नवोदय टाइम्स। मैं हूं आपके साथ नमिता सचदेव। मेरे साथ बहुत ही अमेजिंग लोग हैं इस वक्त। यस, वी हैव विद अस मिस्टर नलिन, मिस्टर धीर एंड मिस्टर सिद्धार्थ रॉय कपूर। तो वेलकम टू पंजाब केसरी नवोदय टाइम्स। कैसे हैं आप सब?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
फॉर अ फिल्म मेकर लाइक यू आर, है ना, जिनको ऑलरेडी इतने इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड्स मिल चुके हैं, हम देख रहे हैं कि आपका विजन काफी अलग है, सिनेमा को लेकर आपका प्यार बहुत अलग है। तो क्या ऑस्कर्स में एंट्री कितना मायने रखती है आपके लिए अभी इस वक्त?
अच्छा, मायने तो रखती है क्योंकि बहुत सालों से मेहनत की है, तो यही अच्छा होगा कि हम शायद ऑस्कर में हमें नॉमिनेशन मिल जाए और शायद जीत भी जाए, तो सबसे बड़ा फायदा यही होगा कि और लोग मेरी फिल्म को देख पाएंगे। क्योंकि मैं तो यही मानता हूं कि ये ऑस्कर अवार्ड्स फेस्टिवल ये सब बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज होती है, लेकिन जरूरी नहीं है। हमारा पहला मकसद यही है कि हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा जनता के कैसे पहुंचाए, जो फिल्म मैं बनाता हूँ किस तरह से ज्यादा ऑडियंस इनको देख पाए। तो ऑफ कोर्स ये बहुत बड़ा हेल्प होगा अगर हम जाएंगे, ऑस्कर नॉमिनेशन लेके आएंगे और जीत भी जाएंगे। लेकिन तो ये तो जितना ही है इम्पोर्टेंट। आई डोंट नो व्हाट एल्स आई कैन ऐड।
अच्छी बात है, और जितनी खुशी आपको है मुझे लगता है हम सबको भी उतनी ही खुशी हो रही है। वेल धीर, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी, हमने सुना है कि आपको पहले से पता था कि ये फिल्म जाने वाली है, ऐसा ऑस्कर में नॉमिनेशन मिलने वाली?
वैसे पता नहीं था, लेकिन कॉन्फिडेंस बहुत थी क्योंकि व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड मेकिंग द फिल्म आल्सो, जब मैंने पहले बार कहानी सुना, क्योंकि इट्स एक्चुअली Nalin's, it's inspired from Nalin's own life story. So even before it was a film, when Nalin told me his story, because I was very interested on how someone who comes from such a remote part of the country is making international films like Samsara and Valley of Flowers in languages like Ladakhi. So how is a Gujarati person making languages in Ladakhi, and how are then American studios distributing it worldwide? So I was very interested in what the genesis of Nalin's sort of cinematic journey was. तो जब उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि उनका the story what you've seen in last film show is essentially his story. For example, he used to pick up matchboxes and make storyboards with it, or he used to steal reels. बच्चन साहब के reels 2-3 चोरी हो गए picture के. So when he told me all of this, I knew at that moment that this would make for a beautiful film. It would make for a film that would be not only enjoyed by Indian audiences but by global audiences. So then when we were finally making the film and I could see images, I knew how special it was. I knew what cinematic boundaries he was pushing. And one of the main things about the Academy and the AMPAS, the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, is that they recognize a filmmaker's body of work, and they recognize when someone is pushing the grammar, the cinematic grammar, and changing that slightly, which was one of the reasons that Nalin was also invited to the Academy this year in the director's branch, where there are, just maybe 1 or 2 other Indians there, right? So I knew that, it's all about timing, and the timing for this film was right. Worldwide, the movie makers and producers and studios have found it very difficult to attract audiences into the cinema. And this is a film that's literally an invitation to come back to the cinema and experience movies the way we did when we were younger. So I knew that somewhere the timing was right. That coupled with the recognition that we got in Tribeca or in Seminci and Valladolid in Spain, and the studios that acquired the film for distribution, like Shochiku in Japan, Medusa in Italy, Orange Studio, who's our world sales agent, and Samuel Goldwyn Films in the US, amongst many other great distributors. I knew somewhere that the whole world is enjoying this film. Everyone is loving it. So, you have to have belief in it, because what started with just, a couple of us, sitting together and putting words on a sheet of paper has the opportunity to represent India. So I knew that's how, I had to have a sense of belief. I was manifesting the sort of, the outcome of being selected. So while, obviously there's a lot of chatter and a lot of tough competition, I used to always tell everyone, I used to always tell Sid, Nalin, Malvika, people from our team, that I know we're getting it, no matter what happens. So when it was actually announced,
आज से मुझे लगता है पक्का मैनिफेस्टेशन करना मैं शुरू कर दूंगी। सिद्धार्थ, आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी, मतलब वी गॉट टू नो कि आपने फिल्म पहले देखा, उसके बाद यू डिसाइडेड टू थिंक कि इस अनकन्वेंशनल सब्जेक्ट में आपको भी एक हिस्सा होना चाहिए, यू बी बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस, ऐसा आपने सोचा, तो कैसे हुआ?
नहीं तो बिल्कुल, धीर ने जब मुझे फिल्म दिखा दिया था
I fell in love with the film completely. I just loved, I laughed, I cried, I was moved, I had a full on cinematic experience. And I think anyone watching this film will go through those same emotions. You'll go back to your childhood, that sense of wonder, that, the sense of mischief, bravery, courage, foolishness, the sense of just everything in the world seeming so magical and there being so much possibility. Then we build all these boundaries and we make our own cages in a sense. But at that time, you're absolutely free to think and imagine and dream. And I think that's what Nalin has done so beautifully in the film, and has made it. And therefore, I really felt that the film was something that could cross all boundaries, state boundaries within our country, and actually national boundaries, and reach out to other countries and reach out to people who just, enjoy that sense of going back to their childhood and experiencing this little boy in one small village in India, his life being something that they can actually associate with and find resonance in. I fell in love with the film and decided that I would love to be on the journey with Dheer and Nalin.
That's great. Nanil sir, मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहूंगी, since this film predicts your childhood also, as you have mentioned it कि है ना, आप खुद भी इस डिस्ट्रिक्ट से हैं और आप जिया इस फिल्म के थ्रू, तो मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि ये इतना लेट क्यों आया, ये तो पहले ही आ जाना चाहिए था फिर तो।
नहीं, ये इसलिए लेट आया क्योंकि मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था कि मेरा जो कहानी है उसमें कोई भी एक्सेप्शनल चीज है, क्योंकि वी ऑल नो आई हैव ट्रैवल्ड लॉट अक्रॉस इंडिया। मैंने बहुत सारी डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज भी बनाई है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में, नागालैंड में, साउथ इंडिया में, तो मैं बहुत लोगों को मिलता था जिसकी कहानी मेरे से भी बहुत बढ़िया होती थी, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता नहीं था कि मैंने कुछ किया है। तो ये भी जो आइडिया आया था, इट ऑल्सो केम फ्रॉम अ एक एंड अ हर्ट एंड अ वन the friend who was actually a film projectionist, जब उनका नौकरी चला गया था, when all the screen went digital, तो उन्होंने जो स्टोरी मुझे सुनाई और तब से मैं सोचने लगा कि there is something going on. These transformations are great. We should embrace the new technology, whatever is arriving. But then very often, like it happens with every technology, a lot of people are left behind, or they are thrown out of the system. There's always a collateral damage, and so he was one of them. And not only he, there were other, literally lakhs of projectionists who lost their job across the world. So तब से ये चल रहा था मेरे दिमाग में कि how do I find this story? And then ultimately, whatever I was being told about my childhood from my friends and my sisters, and every time we got together, once in a year or twice, there always be a story that, oh wow. I mean, in fact, I had always invited, when I made my first movie Samsara in Ladakh, I wanted my mother to come and give the clap. She had no idea what it means to give a clap, So there was a Murat and Buddhist monk, and so the moment that celebration is over, I remember all the people, there were 14 nationalities of the crew in Ladakh sitting around, and she telling them story. He did this and he used to steal film reel, and he never listened to us, and all that. So I think these stories were floating around, within the close group of friends and crew member. But ultimately, I thought maybe around 2017-18, it was a good time to sort of go back to that innocence, go back to my root, because it just felt right time to talk about something like Last Film Show, something inspired loosely from it, because there was too much of chaos happening in entertainment world. I mean, there were studios and there are social media platforms and streamers, and this explosion of content. And I thought, okay, let me go back where I started from.
अच्छा, may I ask you one more question, Pansa? Is that कि बच्चों से कई बार act कराना is like, है ना, really difficult to get out work from them. But वो, और जितना मैंने आपके बारे में सुना है, मैं जानती हूँ आपका style of filmmaking अगर मैं बात करूँ, तो you are a bit strict about your scripts. मतलब ये ऐसा है तो ऐसा है. समसारा के टाइम पे ऐसा था, लेकिन हाँ, जब नेक्स्ट एंग्री इंडियन गॉडेसेस की बात करूं या वैली ऑफ फ्लावर्स की, उसमें थोड़ा सा इम्प्रोवाइजेशन करने के लिए आपने अलाउ कर दिया एक्टर्स को. इसमें कितना स्कोप था इम्प्रोवाइज करने का? बिकॉज बच्चे तो फिर अपनी ज्यादा सुनते हैं, मुझे लगता है, या देवर डायरेक्टर.
Acha, as a filmmaker, if I had my way, I would not use animal and kids. The two are not possible to handle in front of the camera. But anyway, it's a difficult challenge. You have to embrace. In just like in Angry Indian Goddesses, it was a lot more improvised, and dialogues were written literally by the characters. I did create a platform, but I knew I was a man making a movie about urban women. So there's no way I can do that justice to. So my co-writers and coach, we had come up with a style that which was almost scriptless, and during the retreat, we sort of improvised. And unlike normal filmmaking, the actors will follow the camera. In this case, we were, camera will follow the actor in case of Angry Indian Goddesses. So the treatment was totally different. All the locations were lit where actors can go wherever they feel like. They can go to the window, run out of the house, and we were equipped to shoot that. For the same DP, from the same DP, Swapnil Sonavale, the challenge was the opposite, in doing last film show, because, it is constrained, but at the same time, I didn't want it to take away the innocence of child. So I knew they will have that playfulness to change the line. They would want to make it their own. And I wanted that they make it on their own, because me and Keyur Shah, who is our dialogue writer, we will come up with line. We knew what is the intention of each scene. So when we tell them, and then idea was that if they memorize, then it will be a hell for me, then it will become the drama. It's a theater, which I didn't want, So I wanted them to come up with the same kind of line, and which Bhavin Rabaris, who plays Samay, also puzzle, he really took those lines and made it on his own. That was one of the most important thing as far as dialogues are concerned. For the rest, it was a lot of work done before the shoot. With the children, when I work, I ideally like to work, or non-actors. It's the work you do before you start shooting. Because when you shoot, it's a crisis management, it's never a filmmaking, It's you are going there, there's somebody making sound, there's a train passing, there's a cow running, leopards are walking around, and lions, it's a constant. So the actors were prepared before, that I knew they are prepared before. So when I'm shooting, I'm just executing those things, and I don't have to really spend much time directing them when I'm filming them. So I think their characters, they really absorbed beautifully, and they understood what it means to have close up, to move head slowly. And I was surprised. I worked with some professional actors, how naturally almost all the kids were able to take the direction of actor. I was just mind blown. I had to tell them once that ये emotion है ना आंखों से बता रहा है, कहता है सर समझ गया सर, आंखों से, अरे सर एक समझ गया ना, चलो कि ठीक है. So I think, and he used to understand that, Bhavin understood that. So yes, it is challenging, but once you find a harmonious way of working, sometime they used to blackmail me, for Oreo and दूध, कि Oreo और दूध मिलेगा तो ही एक्टिंग करेंगे,
धीर, आपसे जानना चाहूँ, आपकी तो लाइक प्रोडक्शन हाउस का नाम ही है जुगाड़ मोशन पिक्चर्स, और अभी सर में जुगाड़ बहुत होते हैं, being an Indian, और हम लोग को आते भी हैं वो सब करने ना. So any one जुगाड़ that you did on the set of this film show?
बहुत जुगाड़ किए मैम, बहुत जुगाड़. पूरा अपना फिल्मिंग प्रोसेस, it needed जुगाड़, because the meaning of जुगाड़ is essentially frugal innovation to a large problem, right? Where you don't have many resources and you have to use innovative ideas to sort of overcome problems. And I feel like Nalin, being someone, he's made various types of films with various budgets. He has made some large budget epics, which are historical epics, where he's had to recreate an entire time frame. Even this, in some sense, we were recreating the 2010s, the 2000 to 2010, that era. So there were certain things that we had to avoid. Everything on this was somewhat of a problem. Shooting on trains is very challenging. Getting train permissions, very expensive. Shooting with children, super challenging. We had 2 cameras that were filming continuously. There were lions on set. So, jo bhi aap, it's that Murphy's law. What can go wrong will go wrong. So, hamara pura shooting aise hi chala. Even before the shooting, just 4 days before the shooting, one of our key investors pulled out of the film,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of innovation that we had to do, and a lot of jugaad, as you say, we had to do to overcome these problems. But I think one key memory of jugaad, I would say, is how we found all the reels and the projectors from all over the country. We didn't have the budgets, we didn't have a massive budget, but I think Nalin's also the production designer on the film, and I feel like that really requires a nod in itself. We skip it because he's the director, so we don't talk about the production design. But it was really all personally hand designed by him. He knew exactly what the sets were going to look like. He knew what the colors were going to be on the walls. We obviously had great partners who were executing it with him. For example, his brother was really helpful. He was an art director on the film. We had Namra Parekh, but really it all came from his mind. So जो भी उनका मन में था, we had to somehow bring it out on screen, तो वो एक तो बहुत मजा आया करके.
वेरी नाइस. तो ये सब जुगाड़ की बात तो हो गई. अभी कुछ सुपरस्टिशंस भी होते हैं. सिद्धार्थ सर से मैं जान लेती हूँ, रॉय कपूर फिल्म्स के कौन से ऐसे सुपरस्टिशंस होते हैं जो अपने सेट पे आप लोग जरूर करते हैं फिल्म का शूट शुरू होने से पहले? जैसे एक तो ये होता है ना, हमारे इंडियंस में नारियल जरूर फोड़ना है वरना अच्छा नहीं होगा शूट, है ना? तो और क्या होता है?
मैं एक्चुअली बिल्कुल सुपरस्टिशियस नहीं हूँ, लेकिन मेरे प्रोडक्शन मैनेजर हर फिल्म पे बोलते हैं कि आप कुछ मत बोलो, हम हर दिन नारियल फोड़ने ही वाले हैं. So I never have my way on that. A nariyal is poured out every day, as you rightly said. But no, I'm not superstitious at all. But I can't avoid it on my sets.
It happened to me, and also Kerala. I have a funny story about nariyal. That on I was shooting a documentary, and one of our production guy insisted on breaking nariyal every day. And after 60 days of documentary shoot, the driver is telling me, "Sir, उनका खुद का नारियल का धंधा है." What?
Very nice. अच्छा, like he is like a god-like structure who's always smiling. Siddharth sir and Nalin sir also, है ना? They are always smiling and they are very good listeners. मुझे लगता है वो इतने आराम से पूरे मतलब पेशेंस के साथ सुनते हैं. तो मुझे लगता है जो कोई प्रोजेक्ट भी होता होगा ना, तो सिद्धार्थ सर इतने आराम से सुनते हैं कि लगता होगा कि हाँ कर ही देंगे, मतलब ऐसा है ना? Okay.
That's dangerous, right? Because then you end up disappointing a lot of people if after listening to
this. Vision तो
ये शायद गुजराती और पंजाबी क्वालिटी है.
और गुजरातियों का पंजाबियों का वो जो कॉम्बिनेशन है वो बहुत ही कमाल है.
लिथल एकदम लिथल.
वैसे गुजराती और पंजाबी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट भी होता था कभी सेट पे ऐसा वाला? नहीं
मेरे साथ
नहीं.
अच्छा, धीर, you are a Punjabi?
No, I am Kutchi,
Gujarati.
That's a good frame that you have there.
Yeah.
पंजाबी को अलग किया हुआ है. अभी मैं भी पंजाबी हूँ ना, तो इसलिए I can relate to that.
Correct.
Well, अच्छा, अगर कंटेंट के बारे में बात करना चाहूँ, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम यू सिद्धार्थ सर, कि आज के वक्त में डू यू थिंक कमर्शियली अगर मैं बात करती हूँ, इंडस्ट्री इज इन अ डर्थ ऑफ ओरिजिनल कंटेंट, सो दैट्स व्हाई मोर एंड मोर न्यू कंटेंट इज नॉट कमिंग अप, या वो बहुत अच्छा नहीं कर पाता है जब भी कोई कमर्शियल प्रोजेक्ट भी आता है. एंड मूविंग टुवर्ड्स अनकन्वेंशनल सब्जेक्ट्स, हाउ मच यू गेट कन्विंस्ड अबाउट अनकन्वेंशनल प्रोजेक्ट्स और इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू दैट?
I believe in cinema or in any art form, not taking a risk is the biggest risk, because frankly, people want to watch things which are original. They want to watch something they've never seen before. So if you're going along the tried and tested, then number one, you're not pushing the boundaries and it's no fun for you. And frankly, it's fun for audiences either. So I do believe that it's very important to take creative risks, because that is when you're really going to be able to move forward, build the next generation of content, be able to excite audiences. And we keep talking about, cinematic experience, theatrical, like sort of potential, etc. But what is going to draw people to the cinema hall really is, sure, spectacle, big ticket films, big stars will always be a draw. But I think content that can break through the clutter and that can make people feel I have to go and buy a ticket for this film this Friday, is not always necessarily only a spectacle film. I do believe it can be a clutter breaker also that can do that. So it's very important to back, exciting, new and original ideas.
Coming to the content wala part, Nalin sir, I would say कि आपका जो vision है content को लेके, that's totally different. So how do you conceive your stories as a filmmaker?
For me, it's a very simple exercise that I have to first myself fall in love with the story. And very often when I start putting down my notes or sometimes even write a script halfway, then I reread and ask the same question, do I want to see this film? And often answer is no, then I throw it away, So it's it's a long process, but for me it will be, or even sometimes it's a very simple question. When the story or script or even a show is written, I ask, can I live with it for 3 years? Like the last film show, we did write it, complete 2019, so we are 2022. And that's the story, cinematographer, editor, actor move on to 5 different movies. But as a director, you are there to sort of prepare, pre-produce, shoot, edit, promote. It's a very long time you want to live with your characters. So it's important that I enjoy that process. So that's the first thing. If I can enjoy my story and the process of filmmaking, I know it'll carry some positive energy and aura to the audience. It seems to have worked so far. I don't know it's a formula, but that's the key thing that, every time I make a movie, I ask who I want to watch this film. First of all, if my answer is no, I don't go forward.
Very nice. Well, Dheer, I would love to ask you that as a producer, what kind of content you would want to bring to the audiences in future?
So I think in vein with what we're doing with Last Film Show is essentially what we want to do with our production company as well. We're a fairly young production company. We've done a lot of music videos for artists like Pratik Kuhar and Ritviz and stuff, which have spoken to the youngest audiences in the country, the Gen Zs and even younger than that. And I feel like as a production company, we have the opportunity right now, because we're also all young. We speak the same language as the generation below us as well. So we're at that opportunity to make young adult films, to make stories for young people, which can be consumed about young people, which can be consumed by young people. But I think the most important thing that we try to find with any of the films that we do or any of the films that we go ahead doing is to find a sense of hope in the storytelling. Like you could make an action film, you could make a dark film, you could make anything, but there needs to be some sort of inspiration that you go home with, that the person goes home with. You could be just inspired to go and take up martial arts, after that. But it should sort of, inspire you somewhere in your real life. Like I remember after watching one of the first ever movies that I did in the cinema, which was Titanic, I was inspired to go scuba diving. And as soon as I turned, as soon as I became of age that I went and explored the underwater. And I go now, I go every year and I go scuba diving. So I feel like the cinema and stories and music videos or any sort of visual art form has the ability to inspire you to do something. So I think that's what I usually look for when I dedicate my time to a film.
And at the end, I would say, अपने सारे viewers से कि आज I am personally feeling very proud that I work for Punjab Kesari Group, क्योंकि हम media partners हैं The Last Film Show के लिए. So yes, ऐसे content के लिए Oscars के लिए official entries इसका हुआ है. So thank you so much.
Thank you for all your support.
Yeah, thank you. It really means a lot.